welcome back. I just want to make a point that I'm using Twitter, and the hashtag is the hash ISOCSG. So I mean, I guess it's too late; it's all gone now. But we should, use social media since we are in this solomo. Right now, we are just slow. We're not, slow-mo, behind time. Yeah. Okay. You did that. Okay, so hash INET. So we should probably settle one. Yeah, INET 2012, is it? Okay. Even tweeting. Okay, sorry, I backtracked. Yeah. Okay. So in this session, we are looking at okay. Well, in this overall, we are having issues of security. We talked about some security issues, and then we'll be doing some law and policy issues later on. So now we're looking at challenges and conflicts, and I'm here, my friend, Dr. Derek Keong. Didn't know he was evangelist. I thought he was just a professor. No, evangelist, like those TV evangelists. Or the internet evangelist. He's been a bunch of things, been around quite a bit also, another one of those pioneers. I learned from Derek that the proxy server can have up to 300 sites blocked. In Singapore, we block 125 sites. So the proxy server is 300 sites, and that if you do more, 300 or more, then you get you will have a bad user experience. So if we have a fewer sites blocked again, I guess you can credit or blame, depending on how you look at it, Derek. He's got a rich experience in the internet arena. Among other things, is received teaching awards for excellence in teaching, taught courses in Java, Microsoft, .NET, and open source. Been a member of the National Infocom Competency Framework, and was most recently awarded the Distinguished Partner Award by Spring in 2007. So I'm going to ask Derek now to talk on safe practice on the internet with open source. Derek, please.
Well, going to look at the risks and challenges for Solomo. And then I'm going to propose some solutions, open source and non-open source as well. Basically, we have looked at, you all know the benefits of using social media, okay? So I'll skip this. But coming to the challenges and risks, basically there are risks from a few angles. One is the corporate risk. And in fact, in recent months, we have seen some scenarios whereby employees might post unflattering comments in social media, and that basically affects the standing of the organization that they are employed. Some, by mistake, right? They forgot that they were using the corporate account and then thought that they were posting on a personal basis. But basically, we find that social media has wider exposure. Basically, is community amplification, right? So everything that you do gets amplified. Right, so the exposure to the network, more peers, so there's a greater risk over here for attacks as well, malware attacks. Okay. Now, here's a picture I downloaded from Flickr. I presume you can guess what it is. Yeah. Now, the reason why I downloaded this picture is because it had embedded GPS information, right? So if you go to the Flickr site, you actually will find out, right, where this picture was taken as well, right? So the GPS coordinate actually turns out to be somewhere in Spain, on the seaside of Spain, yeah. So this is one of the problems that have been highlighted regarding social media and the new devices connected to the internet, right? Unknowingly, people have been broadcasting the various places they've been at, right? So really, with all the intelligent tracking, okay, um, for example, some users can actually be tracked, and you actually know, right, particular time of the week where this particular user might be frequenting, right? So if there were um, um, strange people wanting to do things, then basically this information makes it much easier for them. Okay, but really, what I want to look more is basically the spreading of malware, right? With social media, because of the increased interconnectiveness, basically malware spreads much quicker these days. Okay, now the traditional methods that we have heard 10, 20 years ago about not downloading email attachment and all that is already obsolete, right? You don't have to download malware these days. These days, we have this thing of download, drive-by download, right? Basically, you just visit the infected site, and you're already infected, okay? And what attackers usually do is to use the search engines to attract gullible users to their rogue sites so that they'll get infected. But it doesn't only apply to rogue sites, okay? Even legitimate sites, if they've not been well maintained, then their users will then be unknowingly infected as well. So this thing actually happened in regards to the case for the Bank of India. It's a legitimate site. They have lots of customers, but because their site was infected, the customers in the end got infected as well. Okay, you might also remember the situation where maybe Tiger Woods case was publicized. Then you find that Google Trends, many people were actually trying to find out how his partners look like. So they were looking for pictures and all, and that's another opportunity, okay, for malware writers to actually spread their code, right? So right now there are about over 3 million URLs, right, that can initiate these drive-by downloads. Many of these would be zero-day virus, so basically the antivirus that you might be using will also now be ineffective to these attacks. Okay, the motivation over here is financial, right? Basically, if the attackers can gain control as many machines as possible, then they can sell it to highest bidders, right? And so we saw this recently in Singapore as well. Just a 16-year-old boy, he managed to amass quite a number of machines, 30,000, and earn quite a lot of money, pocket money for a 16-year-old. Okay, so lots of financial incentive, and basically the profits are good. This office in the US, in a single day, $5 million was transferred off from their bank account, and basically initially the bank actually blamed the customer, right, because of the infected PC in office, right? And with all these cybercrime, basically it's more profitable, right, to indulge in cybercrime instead of the conventional crimes, right? Because in Singapore, you might get the death penalty, but if you just did cybercrime, you'll be better off. Okay, so basically, surfing is no longer a passive browsing work because here attacks are possible, right? Whether it's unsafe sites or whether it is hacked but legitimate sites, right? So because of this complex technology, you find that now email attachments, the attacks through email attachments is actually decreasing, and the web attacks are actually increasing, right? So the other example now also in Facebook, for example, you have lots of light scam, right, that will publicize and share embarrassing photos, right? So actually, because of this, right, corporate accounts, right, should not be, we shouldn't be using the browser, right, for to operate the corporate accounts. Instead, over here is probably safer, okay, to go through a proxy application over here, right, so that all messages, all responses can be logged and taken into consideration. Okay. Now, the other problem too would be the shortened URLs, right? Because really here you don't know where these shortened URLs gonna lead you to, right? So for example, here you find that on Firefox you have various plugins which you can use so that these will give you a better idea, okay, of where you're clicking to. Now, here's an example of download, drive-by download. Okay, basically, it injects JavaScript into the page, and typically these JavaScript will be encrypted, right? But if you decrypt them, you will actually see real JavaScript text, and basically you'll find that it's very, very targeted to particular platforms and browsers. Okay, so these attacks are almost inevitable. So, with the possibility of drive-by attacks, right, what ways might we combat and be more safe? Okay, I already told you you could use a robust browser, you could use extra plugins, there could be extra malware, blocking filters, and so on. But the best and surest way I found basically goes back to the first principles of isolation, right? Basically, if you want to be safe, then you want to be as isolated as possible. The military, right, don't have the operational systems connected to the internet. So basically, if they want to go to the internet, they use two machines, right? So if we examine the typical desktop over here or whatever machine, notebook, right, you'll find that we typically do quite a number of things, maybe the web, email, we've got a file system on it, office apps, multimedia. Basically, the office apps are generally safer. What's prone to the attack would be web surfing, okay? When we go up to the internet and possibly also USB file transfers, but that we can more control compared to surfing on the internet, okay? So in this case over here, right, if we are talking about isolation, then basically we want to attempt to isolate all the web and the email operations, basically the interface to the world, okay, isolated from the actual production systems and applications which we use, like the office applications, okay. So one way of performing this isolation is that we should actually use a non-privileged accounts to serve the web rather than use an administrator account to serve the web, because then the risk would be reduced. Yeah. Now, what I found, of course, using two physical machines, right, would be quite expensive. So the way, right, a very safe way is to actually use the live CD. Okay. A live CD is a CD that will just boot off your machine, and you'll be able to do all the surfing possible. All right, and because the whole operating system is on the CD, you don't actually have to do any installation on the hard disk. That's why you can guarantee, all right, that this CD will never be infected with a virus. Okay, except that although this is a very safe strategy, you find that it is not actually very convenient, right? Because you have to reboot the machine, and whenever you want to switch mode, whenever you want to start surfing the internet, you have to reboot, and then when you've done with the internet, you boot back to your normal operating system. So this is not the most convenient method, okay? But basically, it will give you a very secure and robust environment. Now, of course, we can combine the live CD approach, okay, by using virtualization, right? So in this case, I mean, most of us have fairly powerful machines. So normally, we'll be able to instantiate a virtual machine, okay? And over here, I'm suggesting the use of VirtualBox. One is because it's open source, so that basically you find that with open source, you get the freedom of running the software on as many platforms possible. So in this case, right, you find that VirtualBox actually runs on Mac OS, Windows, and Linux. And with the images that you create, actually you can shift them to these various platforms. Okay, so the thing is, you can actually run your live CD and switch between the live CD and your operational system, right? And so basically, this ensures that you have the convenience, but at the same time, okay, you're in a safe environment to perform web surfing, and know, okay, that it's not going to breach your production system. Okay. Now, there are some overheads in running virtual machines, but basically with our recent CPUs, this overhead is actually quite minimized. Okay. If we have some time, oh, okay, we're not gonna have so much time, so I won't do a demo of the live CD. Okay, so using virtualization, you find that it is much convenient now. We have a virtual PC within our PC, and that gives you the isolation that is required. Okay, now I want to say a little bit about open source, because in some sense, all right, the open source is what has driven the internet as well, all right. Long ago, when I used open source, I value that open source is used without cost, okay. It was only more recently that I felt, okay, that the no-cost use of open source is not as important as the innovation that comes, okay, from the collaboration of developers on the internet. All right, so here is one example where open source actually helps, right, in that the other way to improve security, okay, of our operating systems basically is to put in a kernel extension, right? Now, Over here, there are two systems, SE Linux and AppArmor, that are examples of work done on the Linux kernel. Okay, and what they provide is something very important, known as mandatory access control. All right, most of our operating system use something called discretionary access control, which is equated with our file permissions. All right, but basically this is insufficient. All right, if you want to tightly control access rights, right? So this is an example if you're using open source to have the freedom to even change the kernel. Okay. Now, presumably most of you use Windows system, right? So one easy form of isolation, if you're not into using virtual machines and all that, okay, one way is to use this method called sandboxing. Sandboxing basically gives you a separate environment whereby all your downloads will appear, right? So in this diagram over here of using this application called Sandboxy, okay, you have two scenarios. One over here is your typical scenario if you are running your browsers without sandboxing. If you are running your browsers without sandboxing, then your downloads can occur anywhere in your hard disk, right? So this could be downloads which you intentionally do, okay, or the drive-by downloads which you unintentionally has performed. Your downloads occur all over your hard disk, all right? But if you're running Sandboxy, if you're running a sandbox, then what it does is it redirects all the downloads to a particular file location, so, right? So all your downloads occur in this area, for example, and then you have the freedom then to further investigate whether these are in fact legitimate, right? So that it doesn't actually corrupt your operating system files. Okay. So what I'm proposing over here, okay, for safe use of the internet in the age of mobility, right? When you're exposed to lots of different networks as well as social media, right? With the huge exposure, basically is to rely on isolation instead of just your standard antivirus, right? Since it's not quite a complete solution over here, right? So isolation and probably your Mozilla add-ons, which basically gives you useful extensions to suit your various security policies. Okay, so these over here are the opportunities which open source provides, okay, in the collaboration and innovation, right, for a freedom in choosing your platform. Right, thank you.
I don't know how you feel, but I think you're very afraid of internet after this. Thought you were evangelist. Okay, next speaker is Mr. Benjamin Ma, CEO and co-founder of VKey, which is an internet security firm. Mr. Ba has an impressive CV as an entrepreneur and someone working in startups. Started with both eCorp and Concentrate, both, and they were bought out by other companies. His talk will be on mobile application security exposed, what you must know.
Okay, hi. So, afternoon. So, I hope after Dr. Keong's presentation doesn't frighten everyone. Security is really not that bad, okay? Now, what I'm going to do here, given that, you know, I'm going to talk about mobile, which is a fast environment, and security, and probably Dr. Keong have give you a quick rundown. It's about protection. I'm going to aim to see and explore with all you guys today what I see, what I hear, what I learn, both at the Valley and here in Singapore. Okay. What I'll be talking about as well is some of the research findings that we specialize in mobile and mobile application vulnerabilities. I'm going to share with you as well, with real life case scenario, what are some of these exploits are about. So that's one. Two, as well, where do we see the solution set moving forward and what the end users on the mobile are requiring. So before I start off the presentation, right, given that this is a mobile and internet, it needs to be fast, right? Any car enthusiast that knows the brand of this car? The fastest car in the world, I was told. I have not driven in it, so it's the Bacardi, right? From 0 to 60 in 2.4 seconds, my goodness. That's real crazily fast. And why do I take this example, right? And obviously when you sell speed, you need to sell security. With this kind of speed, you need to ensure that the human is safe enough to drive in this kind of vehicle, isn't it? And that's where, as in this internet conference, I want you guys to think about as you tap on the super highway with your fast vehicle apps, be it be payment, be it be social media, be it be just a simple app that you want to just broadcast your brand. This is something for you to think about. And history lessons have taught us this, right? The first modern day automobile invention was in 1866 by Carl Benz. And you know what is the brand right now, right? It's made in Germany, right? German. So it's now Mercedes-Benz. Okay? That was when the first car. But guess what? Seatbelts was only introduced by law after so many years later. Obviously, when people drive the first invention, they got into accident, the steamobile was too hot, you burn your hand, well, your whole person, you fail to brake, then the human jump out of the car, right? That's history lessons. But in the internet space here, can we be that slow? Absolutely not. Just PayPal, earlier in the presentation, was mentioning in terms of the transaction dollars that they were making. And if they tell you that it's not secure, do you want to transact with PayPal? Absolutely not. Right? So what am I going to talk about today? It's about exposing the mobile application security, right? Some of the threat research finding and moving forward, what are some of the approaches that the industry can take? Now, A here, with regards to not only just PC, which forms the foundation base, we are seeing the post-PC era that's happening with regards to the tablets and the phones. And now in Singapore, right, there's more tablets than a human, right? I mean, one person would have 2 devices, if not 3, right? And 2 here, be it be your kids, be it be you riding on a business, Angry Birds for your kids, PayPal for yourself. You know, the apps is apps unlimited, right? We are just simply hungry for apps. We're so hungry for apps until the point that one day the browser will be history. Why? Because the browser forces us to type www.google.com, whereas the apps just touch on this G. You don't need to remember anything, because the fact here is that we are lazy and we just want convenience, right? Why type a keyboard on www.google.com where I can just download an app and click on it and go directly to what I want? Apps unlimited. What this means here, more devices, more apps, more users, but the truth is everybody is saying that the payment is going to be made by the phone through NFC. So in the past, where you have just these 3 blocks, well, security can be like seatbelts, right? I mean, let's wait, let's go figure it out. Yeah, Ben, you're scaring me, but I don't really care why there's no transaction. But the fact here is that if banks are telling you to download their apps, if PayPal is saying that I'm going to support the latest payment by near field communications, and you can go figure buy a cup of coffee by Starbucks by the tap of your phone, then this is where money is involved. So obviously when there's money, there's attention, there are threats. And there's money, so unlike what Singtel Lu have said that the money is not coming in yet, but we see it very differently. We see as transaction dollars that's happening out at the Bay Area, that I can buy my Starbucks by tapping. There are things to be guarded. BB Citibank, they have launched out the first mobile banking credit card. Wells Fargo's Chase is catching up, and not to mention some of the other tier 2 US banks, and likewise here in Singapore, I think DBS is going very aggressively on their one tap. So now as the current state of affairs, we have close to 400 million mobile banking users. 400. And that is set to grow at least 2x by 2015 to 900 or 894 million. That kind of figure is huge, huge exponential growth, right? And where are the threat landscapes? How many of you guys are using Androids? Okay, yes, open source. Then obviously, being that open, right, I can go about recompiling my own Android version. I can modify, I can string wrap it. And of course, one of the big news was that the Google Wallet, before it was launched, right, there was a lot of tests on all these Google Wallets because of its open sourceness, right? And I was talking to 中国银联, China UnionPay 银联. They have a partnership with HTC phone, right? That means once HTC comes with NFC, it comes with an 银联 wallet. Why aren't they launching out right now? It's because of the vulnerability as well, right? And of course, with the minis, iPad minis, with the new iPhones, you think 6 is unbreakable? Think again. Where is the fact of the matter? The fact of the matter here is with ease of use on these icons, the backend is still running an insecure operating system. So what kind of operating systems, how insecure are we? I'm going to run through with you with some examples, right? Word of the day, right? We depend on apps or about anything. So phrase of the day, word of the day. You head down to your Play Store, you download an app like this, okay? Does it look decent? Will it pass App Store? By the way, I got a designer to design this as well, so I think it will pass, right? And you get what you want. But from a hackers community perspective, I get what I want as well. I get your unique identifier that you have downloaded the use of apps. So you get the word of the day, I get your UDID of the day. Right? And obviously Apple is trying to ban this. Why? Because based on all the enterprise app store or iTunes, they are basing on these IDs to basically track the phones, right? But obviously, if they move the target, I can just recapture that, right? So every phone has a unique MAC address. I can capture that as well. Why is that important? It's because the moment once the identifier is in, then a couple of things that I can do. If I have your email, I can send you a normal mail, right, with an attachment. Hey, thank you. Hey, it was a nice conference. You want my copy of my slide? Here it is, right? You go, hey, thanks, Benjamin. Hey, thanks for sending me the copy of the slide, right? And you click on the PDF, and obviously I wouldn't call it exploit.pdf. Nobody will click on it, but for this example, I'll just say exploit.pdf, boom. Or you say, oh, the phone have just, crappy phone, apparently out of battery, or, iOS crashes, Windows does it so many times on me, I don't bother, right? It recycles. Hey, why I click on this attachment, suddenly it goes boom, right? It just refreshes on me. But what effectively it does here is I have remotely jailbroken your phone, right? And that's exploiting on the older iOS kernel vulnerability that leverage on PDF. And those guys who have brought your phones to Sim Lim Square to play free apps, to download free apps, that's the exact same vulnerability. But the difference is it can be done remotely. Okay. Next, so what does it mean? It means that I begin to live in Dr. Keong's world, right? The Linux commands. That while you're using the phone on the front end with nice user icons, then what I have here is I use a default manufacturer passwords and I'm into your file systems. So while you use on the front end, I'm accessing your file systems on the back end. And most mobile application developers are not the most hygienic ones, right? They code and they leave a lot of their traces of the temp files all lying all over the place, right? And when the apps exit, they don't even bother to clean it up. Then if I dump into the dumpster of your /usr temp files, which in the Microsoft world, there is a temp folder as well, I gain tons of information, right? So for this instance here, what I found within the dumpster, it's RSA. We all use RSA, the hardware token. Well, I found the RSA software version of this, which is the seed file. So these Americans don't bother to store it within the folders. They just keep it in a flat file. Well, Vasco is slightly, the Vasco example, Vasco coded within an XML folder. So given the fact that there is two modes of application, one is basically a client-heavy application that you download within your phone. So, we are used to spend millions of dollars in enforcing buying firewalls, antivirus to guard all our networks. That goes all down the drain. Why? Because the whole entire application logic, your if and else statement sits in the hand of the attacker, right? And so what happens here is that your if and else within your application logic is in my hands and I know it right now, okay, through your mobile application. And what this means from a consumer standpoint, it's the moment once you download, let's say this is a real example, guys, right? I purposely mask out this app so that not to embarrass any banks around here. Hopefully any banks, by the way, just want to make sure I check properly. Any banks around here? No? Okay. So this is a tier 1 bank, blue in color. And the moment once you download it, okay, you key in using a jailbroken with a keylogger. What you type is what I get, right? So meaning the moment once you key in your card number and your PIN, what has been reflected on the right-hand side is exactly both your card number and your PIN. And on top of that is what you see is what I see. So because I'm using a VNC, so whatever sites, your Facebook, your keyloggers, your comments, like Eddie have just mentioned, wow, why Australian? They swear so much, right? So I'll get to see what you're swearing as well. And if all else fails, and Dr. Keong say, I'm going to sandbox, and I'm going to monitor through the I/O socket. At the end of the day, you need to pass information out anyway. So via your TCP I/Os, I'm going to figure who are you talking to. In that instance will be mobile.bank.com/Singapore/middleware. And I know who you're talking to. And the payload tells me that, boom. And by the way, this is really, the bank was actually sending through the wire clear passwords. Why? Because the fact here, guys, mobile application, do you pay a lot of money for mobile application developers? No, right? They are poor guys, right? So second, you pressure them like mad, no? That means I need to deliver, not today, but yesterday. Where's my mobile app, right? Those guys are under pressure by you guys, right? So second. Third here, then you slap tons of policy on them, right? And you expect them to know security. There's no such thing. There's no, this formula just don't equate. Okay, so for cheap, you get cheap stuff, right? So, this has really been an eye-opener for many of the mobile application providers, be it for the banks, be it for the governments. And the common equation here is that what's happening is the unique demand of lifestyle on the phone, the BYOD. Unlike in the past where the company issue you a laptop and they can load tons of stuff, antiviruses, policy enforcement on your desktop, now you're saying, dude, I bought my iPad mini. By the way, I use my money, my own money to bring in my iPad mini, right? What are you going to do? You're going to load antivirus onto my iPad mini. By the way, this iPad mini, my son used to play Angry Birds for 3 hours, right? With you scanning your antivirus, keep scanning, I can only play my Angry Birds for less than an hour. My son is going to get very angry, obviously, right? So that's one. Two here, it's because, I'm a poor dad, I do not want to buy ads, right? So I jailbreak my iPad mini so that, my son can just play a game for one day, he gets tired of it, and go download another game for free, right? What you're saying, you're going to kick me out of your corporate network? But I still work for you, right? And three here, whatever you do, that you install the third party, it cannot affect my lifestyle because I have a lifestyle on this phone, right? Every morning I wake up, I don't brush my teeth, but I check Facebook. I wake up, I say, Facebook, hey, what's the world talking, right? What's the latest gossip? Or I check my WhatsApp, right? I never even brush my teeth, but I want to check for Facebook. So you cannot stop me in terms of my lifestyle. And you need to optimize what I bought. And the best of it all, as earlier Dr. Kyung have explained, you need to put your sandboxing, you need to put this interface in, you need to install your antivirus, it must have a secure. I mean, to the end user, do you really care? To the end user, they say, don't bog me down with all this highly complex stuff. I just want to use my app, right? And where the current mobile security approach here is, they're forcing people, they're forcing people to be very hardware focused, right? So you have an iPad, then what you have? An OTP token. The thing of OTP token, right? And you are required to constantly install third party. It's very policy heavy, it scans. So what do? Where we want to position ourselves is very much in terms of focusing on the mobile application. Then, why not phone-wide? Because history lessons have taught us that desktop security, with so many years of combating antiviruses, and I have 2 antiviruses that's running on my desktop, viruses still get through. So history lessons have taught us that desktop-wide, system-wide security is too big a jungle to secure, right? So 2 here. The phone, for the mobile side, that's what I say, you cannot scan it unlimited. It has a limited battery life. But more importantly here is a BYOD culture that the system-wide on the phone don't belong to you. It doesn't belong to the corporate. It doesn't belong to the bank. It belongs to the end user. So with you scanning system-wide stuff, effectively if your Facebook got stolen, the username and password, you can basically blame the corporate for spying on you, right? You are not going to take all these liabilities. And with the Singapore government, with all the privacy data laws, you're not going to infringe on that. So the playing field within the mobile is very different from desktop. And so what we decide to choose to do is to focus on the mobile application space. That means once you hit upon a Citibank, a DBS, and this is where you enter into the realm. And with the realm here, we use the sandbox technique, but the world's first liquid defense sandbox. We can basically wrap around any applications, be it your Oracle, SAPs, Citibank's app, as long as it has an icon, we'll be able to wrap around it without the modification of source codes. And in addition to that, we provide the necessary mobile threat intelligence. Let me give you an example. I know it's time to wrap up. So Cisco, right? No modifications of Cisco, but what we do here on the sandbox, Liquid Defense Sandbox, we're able to intercept Cisco.api, and the moment Cisco API gets called, we intercept, we check the status of the phone. And again, the end user do not need to know security, right? Why? Because when they download the app, security comes with the app, right? So when you click on it, we are doing all the checks without you even knowing it, okay? So we do the hard part, you do the easy part. And finally, if an incident were to happen, this is where we can immediately just alert the necessary authorities or even the end user. But not to frighten you here, is from the mobile applications, we can ensure the state, plus to ensure that you are connecting to the right destination server on a lockdown manner on the sandbox within the apps, even on a jailbroken phone. So at the end of the day, what we want to say here is not only the applications we want to secure, we want to secure the transactions, we want to say goodbye to hardware and SMS OTP by using your phone as a hardware one-time password. Because we have the sandbox, we're working with the banks, and this is where, on one click of a button, you'll be able to transact. And this is convenience at its best. So obviously what we have done here have gained some recognition, thanks. Both from SITF and Red Herring Top, we're the finalists for Global Top 100. We've just collected the ASEAN ICT Awards, as well the winner, and very soon the arbiter. So with this, I just want to end off, we're changing the landscape. Don't need to be too worried about security on a mobile phone. We're keeping it very easy for you guys, and that's why our tagline, Trust Simplified. Thank you.
Give a bit of time, I'm going to ask Derek, you want to do a demo? Maybe set it up and do a demo.
Question. Benjamin, how do you wrap up if there's a keylogger on your iPad or jailbroken or otherwise?
Oh, simple. So the question was, while Dr. Keong is setting it up, how do you do wrapping on your application if there's already...
You also wrap the keyboard?
No. So that is a very good question. So what we do here is we separate isolation, right? So a couple of things. Effectively, there's a technique within mobile applications which is called hooking. So what we do here without modification of the source code, we hook on the mobile application. Now, the moment once we hook on the application, earlier you see that when we intercept on the programs on start, we're checking the state of the phone, right? So when we check the state of the phone, it goes, hey Ben, there's this keylogger. We are aware of it. Okay, so hang on. So what we do here is when all the developers in the world will code keyboard.api, we all know that, and that's why all the keyloggers are monitoring keyboard.api. But when the app that has been hooked by us, keyboard.api has been called, we intercept it, and we also do a substitute and replace with my sandbox secure keyboard.api. So what's reflected to you is a secure keyboard.api, but obviously all you guys will not know that I'm doing so much work for you guys, right? Protecting your user credentials on behalf of the bank while your keyloggers are still monitoring. But of course, you guys will need to know that don't be frightened about this keyloggers that's on the back end. Well, we enable the banks to operate in an insecure environment.
And you sandbox around the application, you also wrap a tunnel through?
Yes, SSL.
You SSL?
Yeah. So we help the bank to ensure that there are techniques, what we call man in the middle, that where the local app is tricked to think that the server, the hacker server, is actually the banking app. So before we transact, we say the virtual machine will check with the bank, with the SSL cert, that I'm really talking to you before we allow the transaction to take place. And again, of course, it's on the back end, and you guys need not to be SSL experts. Need not.
Okay, in case somebody is looking worried that it's speaking Greek, don't worry. It is Greek to me. I've been to sessions where I ask people, like, dual stacking of IPv6 and IPv4, and says, all of you understand IPv4 and IPv6 dual stacking? So, I only wanted to understand. Okay? So there are some technical things in this discussions, and I guess Tinwei, one of those people who know, and some people know it as well. But for For those of you who don't understand, don't worry, I'm with you. Okay. I'm going to ask Derek to present the presentation.
Well, VirtualBox is the virtualization software that was originally created by Sun and given to the open source community, and since Oracle took over Sun, so it's now Oracle VM. Okay, so what I'm gonna do over here, basically is to show you about creating an instance, right? So although I'm running VirtualBox on Linux, you could be running it on Windows or on the Mac, presumably if you have sufficient RAM, right? But these days RAM is cheap, right? So here's the flexibility, right? That instead of actually buying a new hardware, right, we can just create a virtual machine, right? So I'm gonna create a virtual machine to run the live CD, right? So I'm gonna simulate that this machine will have some RAM. So let's give this virtual machine 1 GB of RAM, and because the live CD works just on the CD-ROM, I don't need any hard disk. So I don't need a hard disk over here. So I'm gonna create my virtual machine, right? So over here, I've got my virtual machine already created, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make this machine read a CD-ROM to boot up, right? Since it doesn't have a hard disk. So what I'm gonna do now is to choose the CD-ROM. So I've downloaded a live CD over here as an ISO image. So if you had this ISO image, you could create a physical CD-ROM. But since I'm running it in VM, I don't need to do that, right? So now the virtual machine is actually set up in about 2 minutes. So basically, I can start, and so the virtual machine is now booting up, right? So I can say trying Ubuntu without any installation, right? So nice thing over here, okay, is that with virtualization, you could have many instances. So you don't have to be testing a new application. You don't need to be testing some unknown, unsafe software on your production system. You can actually test it, or maybe if you wanted to run a game, you're not so sure, you can always run it under a virtual machine instance like that. All right, so it's as though you've got many other machines at your disposal. So that is the virtual machine running within my host machine, right? So the nice thing over here is that if ever this machine is corrupted, right, basically, or it's hacked into, it doesn't affect your host system, right? And basically, you can have a number of machines, one for trial, one for secure banking, right? So long as you don't mix your two environments over here, you know that your machine is not corrupted, so it's basically going to be safe, right? So yeah, that's it.
Thank you. I take it all of you know what a virtual machine is? Do all of you know? Okay, don't be shy. Put it like this. Okay, so it's just creating another computer sort of within the computer, two different computers, and so one doesn't get corrupted by the other.
Question. Derek, how does it carry the audio, microphone?
So you're watching a YouTube movie, so you don't have to...
Yeah, that's possible through, so the audio is simulated, so it's going to be played over the real audio device.
So you have to make sure it connects to nicely, but some applications just don't work, right?
Yes, so but those which cases would work. Yeah.
Other questions?
How about the other way around? Would you consider using your actual machine as the outside one and then create a virtual environment where you shut down and isolate yourself whenever you don't need to?
No, you probably don't want to do that because you want to make sure that your platform is secure. So over here, you don't want to, do anything that will cause your host to be insecure, right? So all your unsafe activities, you want to isolate it in the virtual machine instead.
Yeah, so I'm asking, why not the other way around, where you isolate your safe, secure environment within
Yeah, but
it?
it's not going to be safe once it
If
runs
you use
in an
the-
unsafe environment.
Right.
Yeah.
So the unsafe environment will actually result in possibly
Affecting,
your
that's
virtual
right.
machine.
Yeah. So generally, don't do anything unsafe on the host machine. Do all the unsafe things on the isolated guest machine.
So
if
Derek,
you
how
make
do
a
you
mistake, right? You just make one mistake, you forgot it, started your application on your host secure
Well,
machine.
if you
and
thought
it's-
that the virtual machine is corrupted, just delete it and create another one.
No. If you accidentally log in using your host machine to somewhere else, or somebody who had access to your host machine, serve the net without activating your virtual machine to serve the net, then again you're finished.
Yes.
You're done
So for that, on a Linux box, you will probably rely on other ways to protect your host machine, like for example, AppArmor or SE Linux. Yeah.
Or you delete all apps on your host machine, the secure machine, and then only use the virtual machine. And you can also remotely save your data that you
Yes,
put on your
that's right.
machine,
That's right. Yeah.
You can remotely
So
mount it.
anything on your unsafe virtual instance, which you ultimately determine that is safe, you can move it to the host.
So Derek and Benjamin, I'm puzzled. How do you all serve the web, Derek, and how do you use the mobile phone? I mean, do you use any extra measures? Do you take special precautions, Derek?
I make use of AppArmor, right? So basically, I say that when I use a browser, only download to this particular directory. So with the kernel modifications, it will prevent any drive-by downloads on the other directories other than the one specified in AppArmor.
This is your iPad,
AppArmor.
on your mobile device.
On the for mobile devices, basically mobile devices, you don't have any persistent data. I mean, or you don't have gigabytes of persistent data. So generally, you just take out memory card and just reset it. If ever you're compromised.
Yeah, but you wouldn't know, right? I mean, people are starting to use your mobile device as a window to everything, right? Including
Sure.
your OTP also, you work it through your
Yeah,
iPad.
I don't use my mobile for serious things.
So just to add on as well, of course, right now for mobile security, we're definitely in the early stages. Be careful, really in the very early stages, and that's where I think a couple of the principle of thoughts here are here as much as possible. Don't jailbreak your phone. I think that's critical. Although the lure for free apps, that's a lure, but I think the general advice here is free is not free. That's one. Two here, it boils down to the password management as well, right? In most of these passwords, not only are just kept within your desktop, right now are kept within your phones as well, right? And if you enable caching, then I think the word of advice here is, we have heard so many times that LinkedIn's passwords has been stolen. I think the last count was 6.45 million. My password was stolen as well. Okay, not because because that I was unhygienic, right? But because that the LinkedIn server was compromised. Okay, the LinkedIn server was compromised that lost the 645 million worth of passwords. But their loss becomes my impact, right? So if I choose at that point of time to still remain my passwords as password, that means I didn't change my password after LinkedIn was on news. Couple of things that will happen, right? Which we have seen. Um, your 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 accounts gets taken over. That means whoever that acquire your that account change the password and you get locked out from your own account. That's one. Then he assumes or impersonate you on the web. Then there's more damage control that just imagine, right? Benjamin Ma, a security professional, right? Suddenly says, he just sent out emails, I'm hacked. Then I'm gone. So that's two. Three, here is that there is a lot of the downstream accounts that were affected. Because most of the web accounts right now, be your Yahoo, your Gmail, your LinkedIn, your Facebook, will all ask you a primary email. Okay? So your primary email becomes your master key. Okay? So the moment once you lost your master key, even though you got compromised at LinkedIn, right? I can log into Facebook. Chances are your account, your primary account will still be the same, right? And you get to lose more. So bottom line here is that we are in a world that at the end of the day, the goalpost is moving. The goalpost is moving, okay? So on our personal hygiene factor here, it's down to 101. What we can control our end, it's the discipline to basically make sure that we change and don't cache our passwords. Thanks.
Thank you.